My name is Jordan Burnham. As you just heard, I'm a public speaker on mental health and suicide prevention on behalf of the Active Minds Speakers Bureau. So this is actually my 6th year now, being a part of Active Minds as a speaker. I love being able to go around the country to speak to young adults in middle schools, high schools, mainly colleges, on not just my story, but on the subject of mental health. Now, what you're going to hear me talk about really today are mental health issues and my mental health disorder. And mental health issues, those are things we all go through, things we all have to cope with. That could be anything like going through a bad breakup, your parents getting a divorce, feeling like you don't fit in, going through a tough time in school. Those are your mental health issues that you cope with. Then there are mental health disorders that you're diagnosed with, like depression, bipolar, or schizophrenia. Now, 1 out of 4 college students will suffer from a mental health disorder in a given year. But a lot of them don't seek help. They won't seek treatment. Now, growing up, my sister and we got to attend a private school because that's where my dad worked. And it was great because it was a small school. Everyone got along. It was like being in one big family. But 3rd grade comes around, and my dad gets a new job, meaning now I have to go from private to public school. Now, I'm thinking the transition will be an easy one. I'll get there, I'll gain new friends, I'll fit right in. But I get there, couldn't be any more different. I was made fun of for the way that I talk, the way that I dress. I was told that I talk too proper, that I dress too preppy. Because of that, kids would come up to me and tell me that I act white. After hearing that for a couple of weeks, I got sick of it. So I said, next time, I have a good comeback. Practice it in the mirror and everything. So someone said it to me a week later. They said, Jordan, you act white. So I said, oh yeah? Well, you act stupid. What? Yeah. I got beat up that day. So, needless to say, my transition wasn't going too smoothly. But when I got home after school, I would talk to my sister. She was going through the same type of problems, the same type of issues. So when I got home after school, it's like my sister became my therapist, and I became hers. Because she could relate to everything I was going through, vice versa. And that's how we became close, best friends, going through elementary school into middle school. Now, besides talking to my sister, I got by with 3 different things whenever I was going through a tough time. And these are my healthy coping mechanisms. Now, the first is sports. I love to watch, I love to play sports. Played basketball, baseball, but to this day, my favorite sport and my best sport is golf. I remember growing up, I wanted to be just like Tiger Woods on the golf course. It takes some time for people to get it, it's all right. The second thing was that I love being the class clown. Love being able to make people laugh. Made me feel good about myself. And the third thing is that I've always been a people person. So I like trying to meet new people, gain friends, start friendships, which gave me a little acceptance that going into middle school, I finally felt comfortable in my environment, the people around me, the friends around me. But 7th grade comes around and 2 major things happen. The first was that my sister goes off to college. And I was happy for her. I was proud of her. She got an academic scholarship to go to Penn State University. Now, even though I was really happy and proud of her, that's my best friend leaving. I don't know who to talk to now whenever I'm having a bad day. Who's going to be that one person I can go and vent to? I don't have my best friend anymore. The second major thing that happens is my dad goes to interview for a job at a high school outside of Philadelphia. So I asked him, Dad, what job are you going to interview for? And he said, Upper Marion. I got so excited. I said, Dad, give me a hug. I'm so proud of you. Kobe Bryant went there. We made it. He said, no, Jordan, Kobe went to Lower Marion, but are you still proud of me? And I was like, Dad, no. But he gets offered the position, he takes it, and now at the beginning of 7th grade, I'm faced with a difficult decision. Do I stay with my mom in Pittsburgh until she gets a job out in the Philadelphia area, or do I move with my dad right away? I knew how difficult that transition was the first time, moving to a new area, going to a new school, so I figured I'll get out of the way as quick as possible. So I get to this new area, get to this new school, just trying to fit in, trying to gain friends, but it's the same process all over again. Made fun of for the way that I talk, the way that I dress, the person that I am. The only difference this time is that my sister's not there after school to talk about what I'm going through. And this was the first time I kept any depressed, lonely thoughts to myself. Because my dad's there, but he's getting adjusted to a new job, so I don't want to bother him. I feel guilty for leaving my mom back in Pittsburgh, so I don't want to bother her. And my sister's a freshman at college. I'm sure that's a tough transition, so I don't want to bother her. Now, there was a school therapist at my middle school. She had her own office. You could go there whenever you wanted. But I thought you only talked to a therapist or a counselor in an extreme situation, like someone close to you passing away or your parents getting a divorce. I didn't know I could walk into her office and just say, hey, I'm having a bad day, can we please talk about it? And so I shied away from her office. But going through 7th and 8th grade, I was able to tell jokes, play sports, gain some friends, that going into 9th grade, I was voted class president, which is something I should have been really happy and proud of, but at the same time, I feel like I'm in a community, but I'm not really a part of one, because I'm going to school with a mask on my face, hiding the fact that I feel depressed, I feel lonely, and I feel like I don't belong. I'm going to school with fake laughs, with fake smiles, so I figured that people around me that called themselves friends, maybe they were fake too, because they didn't understand the true me, the true Jordan, and what I was going through. Now, 9th grade, high school, was a tough transition for me, because it was the first time I started doing a lot of different things. It was the first time I started trying to impress and please other people instead of just making myself happy. Now, 9th grade was also the first time that I started to see my grades slip. Couldn't figure out why. Why I could never pay attention in class. Well, it felt like I was 10 steps behind everyone else. I lacked motivation to even get up and go to school, but I couldn't figure out why. And then 10th grade comes around, and during this year was the first major incident between my parents and I that led me to go see a therapist. Now, it was supposed to be an exciting day. I was going to take my driver's test, and this was my 3rd time going, because the first 2 times I was terrible at parallel parking. But this 3rd time, that's all I've been doing, practicing parallel parking, knew I had it down pat. So I get there, not even nervous, not even anxious like I was the first 2 times. I get there, I do the blinkers, I get to the stop sign, and I'm so focused on the parallel parking that I didn't wait for the momentum of the car to come to a complete stop. So I failed for the 3rd time. And it was weird because I stopped at the stop sign the way my dad does, which is why I failed. And so, but at this point my emotions worked like a rubber band, where I could go back and extend for a really long period of time, holding in any negative thoughts or feelings, but when I let go, I snapped. That's what I did that day. I yelled at the driver instructor, I cursed him out because I thought he looked like a fake Bernie Mac. That made me mad for some reason. I yelled and I cursed my dad, and my dad has no idea where this is coming from. Where's the Jordan that's always happy, that's always smiling? Where's this Jordan coming from that's now yelling at me in public? So he took it as disrespect, he left, and I had to walk 10 miles just to get home. Now, right before I get home, my mom calls. She says to me, Jordan, Dad told me what happened. Please just meet with me. Let's talk about this. So I sit down and I start talking to my mom, not just about the driver's test, but about how I've been feeling overall emotionally, about my anger management, my stress management, being in this new area, this new school, my sister being at college. Finally, she says, I think we should go see a therapist. Now, in my mind, I'm a 16-year-old guy in high school. Anything I'm going through, I can drink it off, talk to my girlfriend about it, play sports and forget about it. I figured there was no reason for me to go see a therapist. But eventually, she talks me into going. And I remember the first time I entered a therapist's office. I was very judgmental because I didn't want to be there. So I'm looking this lady up and down, and in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, how could she ever understand what it's like for me, a 16-year-old black male going through high school? Why would I ever share with her my thoughts, my feelings, when she can never understand or relate to me, especially not like my sister could? To this day, I don't remember going out my window. I remember everything else leading up to that event. I remember my class that morning, every hole of golfing that day, the car at home with my dad, but going out the window, I don't remember. This was impulsive. I didn't plan it. I didn't write a letter or a note. That's Friday of high school, September 28, 2007. Started out just like any other Friday of high school, but for some reason when my dad dropped that duffel bag full of alcohol, there was a trigger in my brain saying, I don't belong here anymore. Now, the doctors and psychiatrists at the hospital wanted to see if I remembered on my own. So I was very fortunate to have friends, family, come to visit and support me, but no one was allowed to tell me what happened. I was frustrating. But one night, my sister's visiting, and to this day, Tara and I remain very close, best friends. So I knew if there was one person that would tell me what happened, and be honest, it was her. So one night, it's just us two in my hospital room, and I look over at her, and I mouth to her what happened. And she starts to get a little teary-eyed, and she looks back at me and she says, you went out your window. And there were so many thoughts and questions in my head, but the first is, that's impossible. I wouldn't survive the 9-story fall. Even if I did, how drunk was I to accidentally go out the window? Did someone push me out my window? What happened? She said, no one was in the room, and you were completely sober. The words and the thought suicide attempt didn't even come into my head at this point. Because yeah, I knew I had thoughts of not wanting to be here. what life would be like for other people if I wasn't here. But I never thought I would go through with those emotions and with those feelings. And now I have to lay in this hospital bed with no one else to blame but myself for something I went through with. I still have depression. You know, it's not a cold that goes away after a couple of weeks, after taking some medicine and going to see a therapist. It's still something I deal and cope with, but deal and cope with it in a much better way than I did before. I still see a therapist, I see a psychiatrist, I still take medication. I go to Alcoholics Anonymous meetings, at least 5-6 meetings a week. Because my sobriety, my mental health, my medication, all of those things I do and take seriously because I have to keep my mental health healthy in order for me to do the things that I love, like being able to share my story with you today. Now, when you guys leave here, after we do Q&A and I get to meet some people and talk to people, I really don't want the conversation to be just about me or just my story, but really the entire mental health spectrum that affects all of us. Everyday issues we all go through like stress, anxiety, sleep deprivation, the other disorders out there besides the ones I mentioned, OCD, ADHD, eating disorders, anxiety disorders, and problems out there that any young adult can struggle with, like alcohol abuse, drug abuse, alcoholism, addiction, self-harm, self-injury. That's the entire conversation that I hope you guys can continue amongst yourselves, friends, family, whoever it may be, so that we're still continuing this conversation, not just today, not just tomorrow, but next week, next month, and truly making mental health a relevant subject on your campuses.